Coming up on the next episode of Zuzu All Grown Up.
What does it mean to build a life through service? Our guest, Dave Gonzo Kelly, has spent over 70,000 hours giving back to others. Dave's story is full of wisdom, warmth, and inspiration. That's all ahead on Zuzu, All Grown Up.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
You're now listening to Zuzu All Grown Up.
She's been featured in more than 20 films from the early days of film and television.
He is a psychotherapist and her loving husband.
Together, they are on a mission to brighten your day and your life.
It's a time to smile, a time to laugh, a time to expect more.
It's time to get inspired with your hosts, Karolyn Grimes and Dr. Chris Brunell.
It's time to meet Zuzu, all grown up.
Do you believe that life is wonderful in principle, but for some reason just isn't so consistently in practice? Every life will have its ups and downs. But have you ever thought that if there were only more people around you encouraging, uplifting, and even inspiring you, then life would be more fulfilling? If only people like George and Mary Bailey were in your inner circle, then life could truly be wonderful all the time? If so, we've got good news for you, because you can find such people on this podcast and at zuzunetwork.com. This podcast is the vision of Karolyn Grimes, Zuzu, and Dr. Chris Brunell, illustrating how the timeless message of It's a Wonderful Life can be and is applied to our modern lives and situations. Indeed, when you take that message to heart, your life will become immeasurably more wonderful. Visit us at zuzunetwork.com and listen to this podcast series to learn more about how. Now sit back, relax, and get ready to enjoy another episode of Zuzu, All Grown Up.
Get ready for miracles. Get ready for Zuzu, All Grown Up.
Today's guest is living proof that one person really can make a difference. Dave Kelly has worn many hats: author, speaker, trainer, cancer survivor. But at the center of all of it is service. He's spent decades inspiring students and community leaders to lead through compassion and action. We're so glad to have him with us today. Dave, welcome. Karolyn, Dr. Chris, take it away.
We have a special guest, and his name is Dave Kelly. Welcome, Dave, to our podcast today. Our topic is your incredible story. Motivational speaker, author, servant leader, international student leadership trainer, and individual who has clocked over 70,000 hours of community service. That says a lot about who you are.
Service is something that's really important to me. I'm excited to be here with you and Chris, and it's something I've done since I was a kid.
So let's begin by sharing your story, how you got the nickname Gonzo.
That goes back to when I was in high school. There was an album by Ted Nugent called Double Live Gonzo. All my friends and I loved that album. We loved Ted Nugent. So it just kind of became that thing where in my school, our little group, everybody was, nowadays you say, hey man, hey dude, or whatever. And it was, hey Gonzo, hi Gonzo, how you doing Gonzo? Everybody was Gonzo in our group. Kind of kept that nickname alive. After I graduated from college, I did stand-up comedy for a little while. And so to set myself apart, I billed myself as Dave Gonzo Kelly. Then when I got into the speaking area, looking for my website name, Dave and Kelly are very common names. And there were a lot of DaveKelly.coms and other things out there. So again, I wanted to stand out. So my original website, which I still have, is gonzospeaks.com. And that's all been kind of folded into now one that is DaveGonzoKelly.com. Yeah, so that's the origin of it. Some people wonder if it comes from the Rolling Stone writer Hunter S. Thompson, and it's not either of those.
Yeah, it comes from cat scratch fever. I saw Ted Nugent in Anaheim Stadium at that year, and yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Well, can you share what a servant leader is and how one becomes that?
To me, a servant leader is someone who puts others above themselves. Now, when I say that, I don't mean that you become a doormat for people to walk all over you, but your feelings, your thoughts, your ideas are about elevating and lifting up other people. I think about great servant leaders throughout history like Dr. King, Mother Teresa, Gandhi, who talked about this type of thing, the importance of serving other people. One quote from Mother Teresa that always sticks with me that I share with my audiences is if you can't feed 100 people, then feed just one, because little things mean a lot. And so I think the idea of being a servant leader is more of an attitude. It's an approach to things. It's the person who sees trash on the sidewalk and picks it up and throws it away. It's someone who does something nice for someone else without thinking about it, as little as opening a door for someone or, helping someone with big bags of groceries and kids that they got in tow. But it also goes up to things like working to feed the hungry and the homeless and working on maybe a Habitat for Humanity house or even other types of service that people can enter. Of course, think about our service members who give their lives for service. And so they have that serving leader or servant leader attitude. For me, is the best kind of leader that you can have, someone who is really not in it for themselves, but is what can they do for other people? How can they lift other people up? Mm-hmm. So to me, that's really what a servant leader is.
I noticed behind you, you have a sign, building leaders through service. Many, many hands, different colors, and the glow. How did you get started with doing all this community service?
When I think back, I even wrote about this in the introduction to my book. My first real memory of that was when I was a kid, there was a public service announcement that would be on TV, and it showed a Native American going through kind of a litter-strewn city and garbage all over, and you probably remember that, and rowing a canoe through a river full of garbage. And at the end of the commercial, he's standing on the side of the road and a car goes by and they throw a bag of trash out at his feet, and he turns to the camera and a single tear comes down his face. And it was a Keep America Beautiful campaign. And that really inspired me to want to pick up trash and do things to help. I don't know if I called it the environment out back then, but I called it the outdoors, to keep it beautiful for other people. And that just kind of snowballed. And as I got further in school, I had the opportunity to do service project, joined a service club in my high school called Key Club. It's sponsored by Kiwanis International, and got into my first leadership role in that organization pretty much by accident. I was at a state convention and we were in a meeting room and people were running for all these different offices, and our area of the state needed a representative, but nobody was running for it. My advisor nudged me and said, "Hey, why don't you do it?" And I said, "Me? How can I do that? I don't even know what that thing is. How can I be on the state board? I've never even been an officer in our club." But I thought about it and I realized I'll raise my hand. They'll see I'm not any good and don't know anything, and somebody better will get elected. So I raised my hand and I said, "I'll do it." And I got my first leadership role. And really, ever since then, my life's been about leadership and service. I've continued that. And how I know of this 70,000 hours is because as a Kiwanis member, we keep records. And it just kind of adds up. So that's how I've got that number in mind.
In June of 2021, you were awarded the Circle of Service. That's a pretty good award.
It's the highest honor that they give to someone who was not a member at the time. I'm an alumnus. I was a member of that group when I was in college. In fact, I got to serve as their international president my senior year. And then as I grew up in the Kiwanis organization after graduation, I became the state level advisor we call district administrator. And that was the role I had for 9 years, and also worked with students for another 9 years on that level, and was very stunned to receive that award. I was actually, because it was 2021, the attendance at the conference where they gave it was very limited. I was watching on a live stream. I was under the impression one of my former students was getting the award. And so when they started doing the introduction and listed off the accomplishments of the recipient, I realized, wait a minute, she never did that. She didn't do. And then I was like, they're talking about me. And my wife captured an image that's kind of like that, where it's like, what? Oh, and so it was a great honor. And I've also been honored that 2 of my former students, in fact, the one I was thinking about it got it the year after me, but I've had 2 students also win that award. It's kind of a lifetime achievement award. Doesn't mean you're done serving. So I haven't given up. I'm serving in other ways, but both of those 2 students that I mentioned are still in leadership roles and actively working. It's the collegiate level of the Kiwanis organization. And so they're still actively working with the students.
So what type of organizations have you served with, and how did you decide to get involved with students and their leadership development?
I was very fortunate being able to go to college. I was the first generation graduate from my family. Nobody had gone to college except for an uncle who played 2 years of college baseball, and then he left to go into the service. So nobody had ever graduated either. I really loved it, then the leadership opportunities I had, in addition to that, to being a member and active and a leader in Circle K International. I was secretary of my honor society. I was a 4-year member of student government. So leadership was really important to me. That motivated me throughout my time in college, and then continued after I got out of school, graduated, and moved from Wisconsin, where I grew up and was in school, to Georgia. And when I got to Georgia, I joined Kiwanis, the parent organization of those other groups, and asked to be on the state level, work with them. And they asked me at times to do workshops or be the keynote speaker for events. And I found I really liked it. And what I really liked was being able to give back to the students. I only was able to go to school because of grants and scholarships for low-income families. And so with a lot of support that way, and also from particularly my grandmother on my mother's side, who was really my champion as I went through college. I really saw that as I got into speaking, that the direction I wanted to go was to help other students and help them to develop their leadership abilities through service, because that's what I did, and it made such a difference in my life.
We'll join Karolyn and Chris in just a moment with more of Zuzu All Grown Up.
First, an important message.
Start your morning right with premium coffee roasts available at ZuzuNetwork.com and drink them in your Zuzu All Grown Up coffee mug. Also perfect for tea and hot chocolate.
Stay inspired throughout the day with the same gratitude journal used by Karolyn and Chris, and check out t-shirts, hats, books, Christmas keepsakes, and more at ZuzuNetwork.com/shop.
Join Zuzu's network today at ZuzuNetwork.com/join.
Karolyn is creating an international network of aspiring angels, everyday people who believe that they can help make the world a better place by making life better for even just one other person.
Let us know you want to earn your wings at ZuzuNetwork.com/join, and Karolyn and Chris will send you inspirational material to support you in your journey.
We're back with more Zuzu All Grown Up.
And so that's how I got started working with college students. And then through connections was able to start speaking. And now I speak at 50 to 60 colleges and universities a year throughout the U.S. And I recently did a virtual program for the College of the Marshall Islands, which is near Guam out in the Pacific Ocean. So I'm international. And I love it. Really love to work with the students. It's such a pivotal time in their life where they can make decisions and learn things, learn skills they can use their entire life. And if we can teach them to be servant leaders, I feel like we're going to have better people in our world. They have a better chance to achieve the things that they want to.
How do people develop leadership abilities through community service?
It probably happens for a lot of people without them even realizing it. That was the case for me. And then I had the perspective of looking back. Depending, when you first get involved, you are engaging with other people. I think that there's a myriad of leadership skills that we have. And I think we all have leadership skills. Some people develop them more than others. Some use them more than others. But you learn teamwork, working on a project. Most of the time, you're not doing things by yourself. You're somehow interacting with other people. You also learn communication skills. So you learn those types of skills because someone has to run the project. Someone has to organize the project. Someone has to get the materials. I found I'm also a very good delegator because I look at what people are good at and give them hopefully responsibilities that will meet their abilities, but also be something that they'll enjoy doing. And we also learn selflessness when we are doing service. For example, here in Atlanta, one time at a conference, we made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to donate to a group that feeds the hungry and homeless. And they literally go out into the streets of Atlanta to take food. They know where many of the hungry and homeless are during the day. And we made about 300 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And my wife had to drop them off for me because I had some other responsibilities at the conference. And as she was talking to the executive director, she said, "I so really appreciate you bringing this to us because we had nothing to give out for tomorrow. And now we do." And I made sure to let the students at the conference know they had an impact on people like that day, that they were going to have food. And if we hadn't done that project, they wouldn't. And so that, I think, helps drive that home, how important selflessness is and lifting up other people. And so through service, I think we can learn all of these things.
You published 4 books.
Yes.
Can you tell us about them?
Actually, here's one. It's got the logo. It's called Building Leaders Through Service. That's where the name comes from. I have two editions of this. One is for students, and this one is for community leaders. So I have those two, and that's probably my most popular book. Whenever I go to speak at a school, I bring them 25 copies of the book. Many schools will buy more copies in order to give out to more students. And so far, I've probably distributed 15, 20,000 copies of that book. And I just spoke at a conference for the U.S. Army and gave out about 50 books there. Some of them are talking about buying them for the soldiers back at their base. And the whole idea about it is what we've been talking about with service is building up that attitude of servant leadership. And in it, I even give them some activities that they can do with other people or by themselves and some discussion questions. So, as a trainer or kind of a teacher, I would love to have them have opportunities for reflection and give themselves personal feedback. Those both were fun to write. The content is very similar, but the audience is very different. So it was kind of write it and then almost another blank slate and making it fit the other audiences. The other two books that I have, one is a book of quotations, and it's called Gonzo's Little Book of Motivation. So I got the Gonzo in there. I originally published it back in 2006, and I just updated it last year. I love quotations. As you've heard, I did one from Mother Teresa, right over here from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. They motivate me and they inspire me. I've had quotation books that were just quotations by famous people or philosophers or politicians or whoever. But some of them, I would read them and I'm like, what does that mean? What is it trying to tell me? And then I realized I had never seen a book that actually gave you the quotation and what the author or the person who organized it thought about it. So that's what I did. I took 100 quotations, and then underneath I wrote why I think it's important, why it was important to me, why I hope it's important to the reader. And so that's what that book is. And then the other one was just, I guess I'd like to say divine inspiration. It's based on the Sermon on the Mount, and it's called The Sermon on the Mount, the Greatest Motivational Speech Ever. And I take the tactic of Jesus essentially giving what would be a motivational speech if it was done today. Now, I do have to caution people, especially people when I talk to people at churches or faith-based communities, it is totally not a scholarly work. It has not been researched. I don't know how to translate anything from the Greek. How I felt inspired to write the entire Sermon on the Mount into different passages. And it's the same sort of thing where there's a passage from the Sermon on the Mount, and then I write why I think it's significant. When putting these together, each one of them was sort of inspired or something I saw made me say, hey, I want to do that.
So how can someone get a copy of your book?
They can go to my website, which is davegonzokelly.com. There's this place on there where you can order a copy of my book. They are all available through Amazon, so they can go directly to Amazon. If you come to me, I'll sign it for you. If you go to Amazon, you'll have to send it to me so I can sign it for you. And the price is the same, so it really doesn't matter who you buy it from. If they have trouble finding a spot, there's a contact page where you can just put your information in and say, hey, I want to get copies of your book. So I try to make it really easy and user-friendly to get to that.
I understand you are a survivor of prostate cancer.
I was diagnosed in 2011 in my late 40s at that point, and I was not having any symptoms or anything. But every year I go see my doctor for a checkup, and she does blood work. And she noticed over a 3-year period that my PSA, which stands for prostate specific antigen, had tripled. I wasn't in the danger zone. My number was about 3. And you don't really get in the danger zone until you start getting up to more like 7, 8, and beyond. She said, though, it's tripled. So why don't you go the next step and see a specialist, which I did. And they did a biopsy, and they took 12 samples, and 4 of them came back cancerous. One was about 45%. So at that point, then a decision had to be made, and I decided to have surgery. It's a kind of an all or nothing thing with prostate cancer, because if you could contain it from spreading, there's virtually no chance of it coming back. Since that time, my PSA has not changed. But if it spreads, it's also very hard to treat and very hard to stop. Again, 12 years ago is not that long ago, but there are some treatments and things they can do now to help prolong people's lives. Even if it spreads, it tends to spread to the liver and the lungs. Wanted to be definitive and say, I don't want to worry about this coming back. Some men will do something called watchful waiting, where they'll track their PSA over 6-month period and see if it continues to grow and then do something about it. But I just couldn't see. As I said to my wife, I can't imagine getting up every day knowing this is growing in my body and knowing that I could do something about it now. With anything, early treatment is the key. Even, again, not being in that danger zone, said, you know what, let's take care of this because I don't want to ever have to think about this again. I do have a program called Building Leaders Through Service, and I will do that as a keynote or as a workshop for people. And at the end, ask them to make a service commitment and to share it with somebody else. And then I share with them my service commitment, which is about prostate cancer. And so what I ask is the audience, do you have a man in your life over the age of 40 that you love, an uncle, a father, a grandfather, if it's a student audience, professor, advisor, whatever, and nearly everybody raises their hands. And then I tell them, have them get their PSA tested because it's a very simple blood test. That's all it is. It's a blood test, and they check for the PSA. Could save your loved one's life. It did mine. There's a lot of uncertainty as to really what causes it. It's not something you do chemotherapy for. Like other cancers, it doesn't react to that. There are some radiation treatments, but they're not definitive. And that's why I said, I'm going to go the surgery route, because if it comes back after you've had a radiation treatment, then you can't do surgery. I decided to go that route. So there are some things that they can do now that are a little bit different. But problem is, Chris, you can probably speak to this too, being a man, we tend to think we're invincible, especially when we're in our 40s. And as we get a little more mature, I prefer to say, we learn that we're not, and we need to take care of ourselves.
As the International Student Leadership Trainer, where have you spoken? Was it in person or virtual? And how's your training different from training individuals from other countries?
Oh, yeah, that's a really good question. I have spoken and trained in 43 states and also Canada, so far just in Ontario. And those were, Canada been in person only, US in person only until 2020. And then it's been a mix of virtual and in person since then. Probably now about 2/3 in person and about 1/3 virtual. And then I just did a virtual program, as I mentioned earlier, for the College of the Marshall Islands. And I love that medium because there's no way I probably ever would have spoken for those students. And they were awesome.
We'll join Karolyn and Chris in just a moment with more of Zuzu All Grown Up.
First, an important message.
To find out more about the organization featured in today's episode or a previous episode, and to learn more about how you can help, go to zuzunetwork.com/beanangel.
Cats are masters at using up their 9 lives, like chasing laser pointers into walls or jumping onto high shelves. But the one thing cats never do? Text while driving. So be like a cat and protect your one and only life. Don't text and drive.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Have you heard? Affordable healthcare is better than ever. And right now there are more carriers and plans to choose from. If you're between 18 and 64 years old with a household income of $25,000 or less, this message is for you. Right now, the government's Affordable Care Act is available for individual and family health coverage plans with little to no cost to you. Don't gamble your health. Call Health Care for All. 70% of callers qualify for a zero-cost healthcare coverage. See if you are one of them. Call now. Our agents are standing by to help you get the health insurance plan you and your family needs and deserves. If you're uninsured or struggling to afford your current health insurance, help is just a phone call away. This is not Medicaid or Medicare. This is the marketplace with the largest selection of healthcare plans from the Affordable Care Act. To find a plan that's right for you, call 800-788-2406. That's 800-788-2406.
A careless driver can change your life in an instant. Do you know what to do or who to call? If you've been injured in a motor vehicle accident and don't have an attorney, call Auto Accident Help Desk for a free consultation. We can answer all of your questions and estimate the potential value of your case. Call Auto Accident Help Desk and connect with an expert personal injury attorney.
Call 800-348-7312. 800-348-7312.
Don't worry how to handle your medical bills, lost wages, and pain. We will get you the money you deserve.
They got me way more than the insurance company offered.
The consultation is free, and you don't pay any legal fees unless we win or settle your case. Make the smart call if you've been injured in an auto accident. Call Auto Accident Help Desk for a free legal consultation.
Call 800-348-7312. 800-348-7312. 800-348-7312.
Auto Accident Help Desk.
Zuzu's book club features recommendations from Zuzu herself on books she loves and thinks you will love also. All of the books that the club reads, fiction and nonfiction, are inspirational and uplifting. Folks, this is a life-enhancing club to be part of. You can sign up for free at zuzunetwork.com/book club. That's zuzunetwork.com/book club. Today's book club pick, Building Leaders Through Service. The Qualities of Visionary Leaders by Dave Kelly. Available in 2 editions, Community Leader Edition and Student Edition. This inspiring and practical guide helps readers of all ages grow their leadership skills through the power of service. You can order both editions at davegonzokelly.com. That's davegonzokelly.com. Or find them on Amazon.
This is Zuzu, all grown up.
Never have ever also worked with somebody who was on a different day than I was, I think, because they're so far ahead of us. I was doing it Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. on the East Coast of the U.S., and it was 10 a.m. Saturday morning for them. It was early in the day. They were excited, and so I really enjoyed that. And I was a theater major in school, so I enjoy working in the different mediums of video or virtual, but as well, love being in person with people. There's nothing like having an audience to respond to. The hard part is when nobody has their cameras on, you don't get any reactions. I guess I've just somehow been able to keep going, and maybe it's those times where I had the opportunity to film something or do something, and you don't have an audience there, and so you have to still give your best, give your energy. Hopefully, as when they watch it, they get the reaction that you're looking for.
For anyone who's considering becoming a speaker at a special event, do you have any tips on preparing for the speech and delivering it?
Well, first of all, it helps to be naturally a outgoing or a ham or a class clown. So those probably help. Knew my way around the principal's office for certain when I was in school. I get so many people who say to me, "Oh, I could never do what you do. I can't believe you get in front of audiences." I was talking with a lady on the plane the other day coming home from a conference. I said, for me, I can't even imagine not doing this. I don't understand why everybody doesn't do this. But I understand, the biggest fear most people have. And what I tell people is when they get into a situation where they have to speak or where they need to speak to an audience, is nervousness comes from not for being afraid you're going to forget something, or not giving all the information that you want to, or sharing the way that you want to with the audience. And the reality is the audience doesn't know the difference. If you forget something, slide it in later. And if it doesn't fit anywhere else, they're not going to know that you missed it. You can't let that cause you to have a breakdown when you're doing a speech. It's very easy, I think, to be able to say, hey, I want to go back to what we were talking about earlier. Here's another point that I'd like to make. And again, you don't have to say, oh, I forgot to say this and I meant to say it. And I would say just have fun with it. I mean, unless they're just being forced to be there and they don't want to be there, they want to like it. And even if they're being forced to be there, they're hoping you're going to be good so that they can at least enjoy the time that they have to be there. What can I do to help the audience enjoy this, get something out of it, move to action, whatever it is you're trying to do with that speech? So that's a kind of a long way about speaking, but getting into speaking, there's a lot of opportunities to do what I do to get started. The National Speakers Association, and I think they're probably in other versions of that in other countries as well, is a great place for people to go. That's where I started. I learned a lot. The one thing that I really took away from that was that they call free speeches practice. And so there's a lot of groups like Kiwanis, Lions, Rotary, other civic groups, nonprofit organizations, church groups that are looking for speakers. Usually they don't pay. You might get lunch out of them, but usually they don't pay, but it's great practice. And I did that as a Kiwanis member. I had the list of all the clubs in Georgia. And so back then I sent a letter to probably about 50 of them that were within an hour or two drive. And I probably spoke at 30 to 35 of them. And even though at that point I had still felt very good as a speaker, very comfortable, it really helped with my timing, with my posture, with my confidence, all that. So I would say for anybody, find a group or find a way to get in front of people to speak. And the last thing I would say on that is always put on the best show for the people who show up. I was at this Army conference and I was doing 3 days. I did a different topic each day, but I did the program 3 times so they could rotate around and get to as many things as possible. And one time I had a full house. Next time I had 5 people. And then I had 3 times as many. The audience was very much in flux, depending upon what else was going on at the time. You got to put on the best you can for the people who are in front of you. And I see too many people go, oh, well, I was hoping for a full audience, but I guess I'll talk to you guys. They're not going to be your friend.
Have you ever been nervous in front of an audience before? And do you have any funny stories to share about that?
I can't really think about ever being nervous because I love it. And I love going on stage. And I'm even trying to think back to that first leadership role that I had, and I had to go around and speak to different chapters that we had and the sponsoring organizations. And I just don't remember ever really being nervous. But the one thing that came in my head when you said that and asked that is there was a time where I was speaking at a school, a college, university in Pennsylvania. I had sent them my title, my description, everything that I was going to be talking about. And then prior to the event, I put my PowerPoint together and my handout. I have a handout that they get. I'll say, write down 5 things that apply to you, or there might be some fill in the blank words from the PowerPoint, ways to keep them engaged with the material. And when I got on site, I realized that I had sent the wrong handout to the school. The PowerPoint and the handout matched, but it didn't match my description or my title. So I was supposed to be doing a program called Building Confidence as a Leader. And instead I did this one, Building Leaders Through Service. So what am I going to do? Well, I just kept saying the word confidence as much as I could. See, now here's another way that you build your confidence. It's through community service. And so I adapted. And so what I would say is don't panic if something like that happens to you. And I would say the same thing, even if you've got it memorized, you're perfectly set and all that, but you're having nerves, don't panic. They want to like you. Take some deep breaths and just start talking. Just go up and speak. Be yourself. Authenticity, I think, makes a big difference. And again, I think that's maybe where people get nervous is they're like, how do I present myself? What should I be like? How should I talk? You can get books and videos that'll say, oh, you should do it this way and you should do it that way. I think you got to do it the way that is most natural for you and that works best for you. And people will relate to you that way. And also, as I've done here, share stories. Share stories from your life because no one else lived them and only you know them. And you could tell them. And I use a lot of stories in my presentations. And sometimes something will happen in the presentation and it reminds me of a time, and I'll tell a story I hadn't planned to tell, maybe one I've never told before. And then if it works well, then I keep it. You get that nervousness, just kind of true to yourself. Do what you need to do. Don't worry about, oh, I need to move around the stage. I need to do this. I need to speak loudly. Do what you need to do so that you're comfortable. And in so doing, the audience will be comfortable with you too.
I understand you're an avid Green Bay Packers fan.
I am. I grew up in Wisconsin and I've been a fan since I was a kid. And we have, my wife and I and both my daughters have shares of stock in the Green Bay Packers. They are the only publicly held sports team in North America. And they originally sold stock back in the 1950s because the team was going to go out of business. So they sold stock in the team. Now, you don't get anything for that. You don't get dividends. You don't even get season tickets. I'm number 29,876 on the season ticket waiting list. It's such a great environment. Green Bay is a very small town compared to the rest of professional sports. Only about 100,000 people in the city of Green Bay. And I mean, I live in Atlanta where we have in the metro area about 5 million people. So very different. It's a town team. People love the team. They get the season tickets have been passed down through families for generations. My wife's stock actually was one that my mother had. And when she passed away, my sister and I decided that my wife had become such a big fan that she should get that other share of stock. People just really relate to the team. They have some great traditions. When they're in training camp, they go over to a practice field that's across from the stadium, and kids line up with their bicycles and they invite football players to ride their bicycle back over to the stadium for the locker room and all that. They have a long tradition of success. I mean, in the history of the NFL, they've won more championships than anybody else. The New England Patriots have the most Super Bowls, yes. but the Packers have won the most championships overall. So you can tell I'm very passionate about it. And I will share a little bit about that with my audience. Sometimes they bring it up because my laptop has it's called a skinnet on my laptop of the Green Bay Packers. And they'll say, oh, you're a Packers fan. And I'll say, yes, I am. And a lot of times go, well, I'm sorry. Who are you a fan of? Because I'm about to pull out 13 NFL championships. So it's a great conversation starter. But, it's something that we can all relate to is if you're a sports fan, is we all love our teams.
Well, if anyone is interested in learning more about you, your books or your leadership training program, how do they reach you?
They can reach me at my website, davegonzokelly.com. Again, that's davegonzokelly.com. And if you look just a little bit off here, my Twitter handle is covered up by my Zoom moniker, but it's at Dave Gonzo Kelly. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Dave Gonzo Kelly. Those are probably the easiest ways to find me. I'd be happy to talk with anybody. Of course, I would love to come speak to a group that you're affiliated with or associated with, but I'd love to get you a copy of my books or just talk with you about the Packers, about speaking. If you know someone who is experiencing prostate cancer or recovering from it, I'd love to talk to them too.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Karolyn and Chris. I look forward to seeing the episode and best of luck. I know this is a new project for you all, and so I'm hoping that this goes really well, and I really appreciate you all having me as a guest.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Our thanks to Dave Kelly for joining us today. Whether he's training students, writing books, or speaking from the heart about his own challenges and victories, Dave's message is clear. Leadership begins with service. I'm Seth Kennedy, and you've been listening to Zuzu, All Grown Up.
Do you know someone who is earning their wings? Someone practicing kindness and service to others? Perhaps an organization or initiative helping make the world we live in a kinder, sweeter place.
Or maybe you've witnessed the miraculous, the divine, the magnificent in some way in your life, and you'd like to share it with others. Go to zuzunetwork.com/tellmystory and let us know more.
You may end up being featured on an upcoming episode of Zuzu All Grown Up. That's zuzunetwork.com/tellmystory.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Zuzu All Grown Up.
We hope you've been inspired to live your most wonderful life now and to help those around you do the same.
Remember, no matter what you're going through, no matter who you are, there are people who care about you, and your life makes a difference.
It is a wonderful life.
Check out ZuzuNetwork.com for more on today's and other episodes, including transcripts and merchandise you won't want to be without.
New episodes are coming soon.
For transcripts of today's broadcast, go to ZuzuNetwork.com/transcripts.
Watch a video clip of today's episode at www.instagram.com/Zuzu All Grown Up. That's www.instagram.com/Zuzu All Grown Up. Then click on the Reels tab from the top of the center of the page. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at www.instagram.com/Zuzu All Grown Up. That's www.instagram.com/Zuzu All Grown Up. Catch up on past episodes and discover currently premiering and upcoming episodes as well, and get helpful links and exclusive clips from our recordings. That's www.instagram.com/Zuzu All Grown Up.
Zuzu All Grown Up with your hosts Karolyn Grimes and Dr. Chris Brunell.
Announcer and guide Seth Kennedy.
Executive producer Kevin R. Stillmock.
Coordinating producer Holly Ann Way.
Technical producer Stella Joelle.
Managing producer Karina Filatova. A Wonderful Land production.
In collaboration with Radio Wonderful.